Good afternoon. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay, and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Zahir Bayat, Paul Gogan, and Gary McKay. And our Deputy Secretary Treasurer today is Sabrina Salatino. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 within Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submission in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you'll be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision. Today I'll call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take matters into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept new materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and then make a presentation to the committee. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call on speakers in the hearing room first and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that are raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, is there any files to be closed this afternoon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none.
And any declarations of interest for the afternoon session from staff panel? Any deferral requests?
Through you, Mr. Chair, see none.
All right, we can then proceed with item number 17, 7 Parliament Street. This is an application to obtain consent to sever the property into 2 lots. Committee has before it a copy of the draft plan of survey, 1 photograph of the subject property, covering letters from the agent, and presentation materials from the agent. We have email correspondence from engineering and 2 correspondence from engineering, 1 from Heritage Planning, from Community Planning, and again from Development and Engineering Services. We have staff reports from Community Planning and Metrolinx and the TRCA.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person and no registered speakers for this item. Just come up to the podium here. And then just turn on the microphone.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Name and address, please, for the record.
David Sajaki. I'm partnered with Sajaki Planning, and the address of the site is 7 and 11 Parliament Street.
The address of your company?
227 Pape Avenue.
That's great. Thanks very much. And your colleague?
Yeah, Morgan Dundas, Senior Planner with Sajaki Planning.
Okay. This looks like a fairly straightforward reorganization of your lots, and you're going to be giving a bunch of it to the city, but maybe just a quick overview for the panel.
Sure. I'm more than happy to do so. Through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the members of the committee for your time today. As mentioned, my name is David Sajecki. I'm a partner with Sajecki Planning. We're presenting on behalf of Waterfront Toronto. As mentioned, I'll keep this presentation very brief. And if I may ask that it be pulled up, please. And that's okay as is. If we
That's
can,
it there, right?
That's it there. That's correct. Yes. So we can move to the next slide, please. So the subject site, it's an irregularly shaped lot with frontage onto Lakeshore Boulevard. It has a frontage of 96.39 meters, as well as along Parliament Street. It's located along the Toronto waterfront in the Quayside neighborhood. The site is currently vacant and it's being used for construction staging. If you can turn to the next slide, please. It's within the city's Quayside district. It's subject to the central waterfront secondary plan, and it is subject to site-specific zoning bylaw 1174/2010. Next slide, please. This is the applicant that is in front of us today for decision. We're seeking approval of a consent to sever a trapezoidal piece of land, which it might be hard for people to see it, but it's a small green portion of the trapezoid. The entire triangular piece, oh, thank you, is owned by Create TO. Effectively, what we're looking to do is sever the orange portion of the triangle will be retained by Create TO, but the small green portion at the bottom of the triangle, that will be transferred to Waterfront Toronto, and it will form part of the Queens Quay East extension. I should note, I can speak to a couple of other associated applications, but this is the only application before the committee today. In terms of the OP designation, it's designated parks. It's zoned commercial residential. There are no variances that are required in support of the application.
Okay.
So it's simply needed to be able to transfer to Waterfront Toronto to permit the extension of Queens Quay East.
That's great. Thanks very much. Any questions, panel? Looks fairly straightforward. Thank you very much. We'll take it into committee. Who wants to take this one? Gary, the lawyer.
Well, as mentioned, no minor variances here, and the request for consent to sever, it's almost technical. There's a planning report that recommends it and advises us that they are doing various things in connection with the waterfront. So I would move approval, and subject to Madam Secretary Treasurer, would we say the usual conditions on this one for consent?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, it would just be standard consent conditions.
All right, I'll move then that we approve the consent subject to the standard conditions.
All right. Motion by Mr. McKay to approve, subject to engineering. Seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? Great. You have your approval. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on to item number 18, A, B, and C. This is 212 and 214 Chambers Ave. This is an application to construct a new 3-story semi-detached apartment building with front and rear balconies on the second and third stories, a rear ground floor deck, rear basement walkout, and a front yard parking pad. There'll be a total of 3 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before a copy of the draft plan of survey, copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, covering letter from the agent, email correspondence from community planning, and a staff report from engineering and transportation services and urban forestry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering and Associates, located at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West agent for the owners.
Great. So when I read this into the record, I talked about one three-story apartment building, but the application is actually for two?
Correct, Mr. Chair. This actually, it's two different addresses. So we have 212 and 214, and we are looking for a lot severance. So the lot severance is basically is that one lot was oversized. So one of the lots is giving up a portion to the other existing lot. So if staff can pull up the survey, we'll see that we have part 1, part 2, and part 3. And the rationale behind it was that part 3 was a very, let's call, unique shape that was a little bit oblique, and so we decided to actually sever the lot right in the middle, so we create two equivalent lots.
Sabrina, so the consent is delegated?
Yes, it's for a lot addition.
Right. So
that's-
we're not dealing with that today?
No.
We're just dealing with the variances for the two buildings?
Yes.
Okay. All right, sir, so that's fine. Can you just walk us quickly through the variances?
Absolutely. So the first note that I would like to make, Mr. Chair and committee members, is that up to last week, we are on a hurdle, and at MXL, we just tried to be a little bit looking fast forward. So there is an existing, these two lots, they both have an existing two-story semi-detached homes. What we're looking for is to actually do two triplexes, one on each lot. However, triplexes, as you all know, up to last week, they were not approved within the city. So we have actually about 11 variances, but we have been looked at as a little building. So most of these variances that we have for bicycles, and most of them, they would be gone within the new bylaw that just got approved a week ago. So a triplex is now, it's now possible in semi-detached homes. So as we were looked at as a building, all this bicycle parking is actually not required for a triplex. So the first three, or actually the first four variances, they'll be gone as we are today. The last ones, as well as for the balconies, it's where we got the double sword. So the balconies, the same way on a low-rise building, they are not acceptable at the front, but if you'd have a two-family or a single family, you'll be allowed the balconies. So again, most of these variances were looked at as this as a small building. On the other hand, if we have no balconies, we won't meet the Ontario Building Code, because we actually require, especially at the third floor, we need access for emergency in case of a fire. So most of these variances, all of them pretty much are just as a small building, when actually we are not a small building. If this would be two single or two detached homes as triplexes, we will have pretty much
Bruno,
almost
I'm just
no
going to stop
variances.
you there. I'm just going to stop you there, because the description of the project in both instances refers to a semi-detached dwelling
Correct.
or building. So are you detached or are you semi-detached?
We are semi-detached.
Okay, because you've referred to a couple of times it being detached.
No, semi-detached.
Okay.
It's semi-detached.
All right. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, not a problem. So again, as semi-detached, if we have 2 units, most of these will disappear because it would be 2 units, but because it's 3 units on a semi-detached, up to last week, we are not legally authorized. So the way zoning actually looked at this particular application for both lots altogether, it's like a small building. And on a small building, all these requirements apply. So again, it's a little bit awkward because we know that in essence, this is actually a 3-story triplex, but because it was a semi-detached, and the bylaw at the time, until last week, where we just go on a different direction, now we are with triplexes allowed on semi-detaches, all these or most all of them will disappear.
Okay, so you're not removing any today?
No.
Okay, that's probably wise. Are there any variances here that would remain after the bylaw is in effect?
I'm very tempted to say that almost all of them will go on. The balconies, the side yard setbacks. We have setbacks of 4.5 meters. That is unheard of, right? Well, setbacks usually at tops maximum are 0.9, 1.2. So we have most of them, or almost all of them, would be gone. Literally, I don't see any variance here that will stand if we would do this as, let's say, the bylaw that just got approved last week.
The waste recycling bins? The waste recycling? Number 11?
Yes, the bins is the same. The bins, they apply for a building. The building, they have to be inside. When we do single family homes or 2 unit, we can have it outside, and that's where we have it. We have it outside. So another one, yes, you are correct. This one will disappear as well.
Okay. All right, panel, any questions? Does everyone kind of understand? He's basically saying that with the new bylaw, that most of these, if not all of them, wouldn't necessarily apply. If he gets these variances, he'll be able to proceed. Okay, no questions? Oh, Paul?
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the applicant for the explanation and the detail. Yeah, this is for 18A, for 214 and 212 chambers. I propose that we approve as submitted. And I don't believe any of the planning correspondence or staff reports.
There's the standard engineering.
There's engineering.
And transportation has a condition as well. And forestry, number 3 for A and number 2 for C.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sabrina, is that correct? I think that's right. Okay. All right. Motion by Mr. Gogan to approve with those conditions, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. We move on to item number 19. This is 493 Plains Road. This is an application consent to sever the property into 2 undersized residential lots and then to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a covered front porch, a rear deck with stairs, a rear 2nd-story balcony, a secondary dwelling unit in the basement, and a rear basement walkout. Also, a new parking pad will be constructed in the rear yard, accessed from Norlong Boulevard. There will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot, 1 secondary unit located in the basement, and 1 primary unit to occupy the 1st and 2nd levels. That is part 2. Part 1 is to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a front integral garage in the basement level, a covered front porch, rear deck with stairs, a rear 2nd-story balcony, a secondary dwelling unit in the basement, and a rear basement walkout. Again, there will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy of the draft R plan of survey, copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, previous decision numbers affecting the subject properties, and properties at 508 and 508B Plains Road. We have a urban forestry permit number allowing something to happen to trees. We have email correspondence from community planning, from transportation services, and from urban forestry. We have a staff report from engineering services. We have correspondence and support from several properties on Norlong Plains Road, Norlong. We have 4 signature petition in support from owners on Plains and Norlong. We have correspondence in opposition from 487, 490 and 495 Plains Road, and 24 and 22 Norlong Boulevard, and 27 signature petition in opposition signed by owners, occupants of Plains Road, Gleamont Avenue, Norlong Boulevard, and Woodmont Avenue. We also have correspondence in opposition from 496 and 496 Plains Road and 20 Norlong Boulevard.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and 2 registered speakers in opposition.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Leo Mastandrea. I'm from Lemtag Consultants at 817 Cogsburn Ave, and I'm the agent for this application.
Great, sir. You've heard we've got some folks who want to speak to this item, so we'll need a presentation, please.
Okay. Essentially, we have read the letters from the neighbors, and we want to address their concerns and improve our application. So what I was hoping we could do was, if we look at application for part 1, A0228, we just want to remove a few things and reduce a few things, if that's
Okay, so Leo, you're amending your application,
correct.
for both?
To reduce and remove based on the letters from the neighbors and to address all their concerns.
Okay, so let's start with 19B Part 2. Can you take us through the public notice and tell us what you're changing?
Yes. So number 7 and number 8, we're going to remove completely.
Okay, so you're removing the platform?
Yeah. Well, we're removing the platform, so we're no longer going to have a balcony.
Okay.
Put a French balcony on that door.
All right. Any other changes on this?
And by doing that, it helps our coverage. So I want to revise number 3 to say 40.95% and 69.40 meters squared.
Okay.
And also we are revising number 6 from 84% to 82.43%. And the number would be 139.68 meters squared.
Okay.
And I think that should address their concerns. If you guys could pull up the prior decision on this property for a single-family dwelling, which was approved in April of 2024.
Sorry, Leo, while we're doing that, can I just ask you, are you changing any variances on 19C, Part 1?
Yes, exactly the same, actually. Exactly the same.
Okay.
So basically, I'm going to go through it again. Number 7 and 8 get removed,
Right?
and number 3 gets changed to 40.95%, and it's 69.4 meters squared. Number 6 is 139.68 meters squared, 82.43%.
Okay. All right. All right. Did you want to speak to other elements of the application?
Yes. So if you can pull up the prior application that was approved in April of 2024, and if you go to the page number 2, where we look at the main wall height. So the main wall height we got approved at 8.3, and now it's only going to be the 7.89. And also, their coverage was approved at 43%, and we now have reduced ours to 40.95. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because this was approved for a single-family dwelling, mind you, but those numbers were approved. There were some other concerns that the neighbors had was the eyesight from the street as you're driving. So from the house to the actual curb, we have approximately, if you pull up the site plan, yes, so basically from our house to the curb, we have approximately 20 feet, 6.0 meters. And in addition, there was also some concerns about the front yard setback. So our front yard setback is in line with the adjacent dwellings. And if we can pull up the location map, if you look at the location map, our building will be, because it's in line with the 491, again, it'll be in line with that whole block on the south side. So, and in addition, this application also is very similar to what was approved at 508 Plains in September of 2024. There was also some mention by the neighbors about the secondary suite. So, you know, I feel like I'm stuck in the middle because if the city wants more housing and the neighbors don't want that secondary suite, we are willing to remove it, and I don't know if it's even appropriate, but we could even ask the neighbors if that's what they want us to do. We're willing to remove it completely, and as long as it doesn't affect our application and we get approved.
So Leo, you're not seeking any
I do feel that
Leo, you're not seeking
Yeah.
any variances for a secondary suite.
no.
Right, so that's
No,
not
we
before
comply.
this committee.
No, there is a secondary suite, but we can remove it if the neighbors want us to, because that was a concern regarding parking and whatnot. And if they want us to remove it, I'm willing to do that, is what I'm saying. And also, too, I want to mention one more thing. If we were, I took over this application about a month ago, and basically, because it's secondary suite, they're not exempt from the floor area. But if it was called a duplex, which is basically exactly the same thing, there would be no floor area as well. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, so I'm going to draw your conclusion. My only observation is that you're not seeking a variance related to the secondary suite. So if you choose to remove that, that's between you and the neighbors.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay? All right.
Yeah, and like in my opinion, I think this application meets the four tests of the Planning
All right.
Act.
Thank you. We have some folks who want to speak to this?
Sure, yep.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm Nancy McPeace. I own
Is the microphone on? Is the red button on?
Now it is.
There you go, okay. Hey, I ask you to start again, please.
Yes, I'm Nancy Makepeace. I'm the owner of 22 Norlong, which is just around the corner.
Okay,
I'm one of the people that filed a letter of objection, which I'm sure you've read, so I'm not going to waste my...
all right, you have 5 minutes, man.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So just to respond to the agent, I'm not clear whether they're now no longer seeking any balcony, or I think I heard French balcony.
I heard that too, but I'm not sure
What does
whether,
that
we
mean?
can ask them for details on that.
Thank you. Secondly, our letter of objection, speaking for ourselves, has no objection to a secondary unit. That's a good thing. We agree with the affordability issues and densification and so on. The issue is how many cars are going to be on this already congested intersection. All of our neighbors have talked about the issues with pedestrian safety and traffic safety at this intersection. It's no joke. I've dealt with it myself. The cars are parked right to the corner of the curb. It's very congested. And that is one of the things that distinguishes it from 508 Plains, which is mid-block. And also, because they're not dealing, it's not a corner lot, they're not dealing with the city road allowance, which means they have more frontage. The severed units at 508 Plains will be 12 inches wider than the severed units at 498. 493? Sorry, been looking at this too long. 493. And our major concern is that to sever a lot in this area is very uncharacteristic. Between Woodbine and Coxwell, O'Connor and Cosburn, I am not aware of any severed lots like this, any with detached houses on each. 508 Plains should be seen, in my view, as an outlier. In any event, it does not change the prevailing nature of the neighborhood, which is lots about the size of mine, about 33 by 110. So that actually covers much of what I was going to say anyway, but I also wanted to just mention the report from engineering, which talks about the risk of basement flooding from the reverse slope driveway that does appear on the plan for part 1. And in fact, the engineer requires the owner to indemnify the city against loss or damage resulting from any such flooding. Now, that may be a standard clause for all I know, but I know the city isn't keen on reverse slope driveways. But the question I have is, who protects 491? Who protects what will be, I guess, 493B, the property beside 493A? Because the side setbacks, and that's the issue, not the front yard setback, the side setbacks are very, very small. So roughly 0.6 meters, 24 inches on the outside of the two houses, 0.3 meters each, so 24 inches between the two. If something goes wrong, how do you get a digger in there? It's too narrow. And we feel that this is just too much of a deviation at this point from the character of this neighborhood. Plains is not defined as a major street, it's a neighborhood street, and we're all feeling the stresses of the congestion. Finally, I did note, and to be honest, I'm a little bit confused about the situation with urban forestry, because I did see the permit, but I also see the July 2nd report, which recommended that the application be denied or deferred for further examination of this issue. So those are my comments. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, ma'am. Panel, any questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll now hear from Steve Davis.
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Your name and address, please.
Okay. Steve Davis, 19 Norlong Boulevard.
Okay, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I won't take 5. I couldn't get online, so I'm just speaking through the phone. Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but the kind speaker said that there were 27 signatures against. It was 42 that were submitted.
All right. Noted. Thank you.
And then the other thing, it's really just a form of a question, because, like I've never done this before. When you seek, legitimate objection, or, when you find that there are people that legitimately object, like, is there a difference between, like, who, like, I concentrated the petition on the people that I thought or assumed would have received the notification. Are those the ones that are valid? Or are others not valid? Like, how is that viewed?
Sir, everyone who submits a letter, their input is considered by the panel.
Regardless of the status, like if it's a renter or an unoccupied development home?
The panel will determine, based on who is writing in, the weight that those comments are given.
Oh, so you do explore the source then?
We're always interested to hear and look at where the support and opposition comes from, yes.
Okay, so you're aware of it. I don't have to point it out then.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Oh, that's it for me.
Okay. All right, panel, any questions? None. That's it for our speakers. All right, we have the agent back, please.
Yes. So the first speaker spoke about the balcony, and so yes, we're going to remove the balcony completely, but we are going to leave the door, and we're going to put a railing in front of it. She mentioned something about parking as well.
So it's basically a Juliet.
No longer required.
Deal? Is it Juliet balcony?
Yes, Juliet, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Juliet, yes. So she also mentioned parking, and parking is no longer required in a residential zone, right? And she mentioned that was too much. We got approved. The prior application, which was approved, had more height, more density, more coverage. So the building and the massing was larger than what we're proposing right now. And in addition, the city's almost going to be passing a sixplex, which fourplexes I could probably do as a right. And then there was a mention about the engineering report. So the only reason why the engineering did that is because the the grades are based on the established grade, but we do have a positive slope from the garage to the street. And she mentioned something about the drainage and whatnot. So our grading plan will address all those issues, and we won't get a permit unless we do. And I believe that's all I really have to say.
I think, to be fair, Leo, I think one of the main concerns that the neighbor raised was about parking, particularly in proximity to the corner, and sight lines and safety. Do you have any views on that?
Well, the house on the corner has a rear parking pad only, and the one in the front has a garage. The one on the inside lot has a garage, so there's a driveway with a garage. I live in the area. I live a block away from here, and it's not that busy. It's definitely not overwhelming. I have a parking pad as well, and I'm right on Cosburn, literally one block south, 817. So I do also have invested in the community.
Okay.
And the application which was approved, they had a double garage in the front of that lot. So I think we are improving the application from the prior decision back in April of 2024.
Okay. Panel, any questions? None? All right, let's go into committee. Zahir?
Sure, I'll kick this one off. Thanks, Chair. I think this is a very reasonable application before us. As an amended application, I think it makes a lot more sense. I think given the neighborhood and the particular location of this property, it makes a lot more sense having these two structures on a severed lot. So I really don't see any issues with it, and there are no city staff who have commented negatively or positively. There have been no comments, no concerns expressed. So I think this is a supportable application.
Okay, anyone else? Paul?
Yeah. I thought that there's a lot of building for the lot, but now that the proposed revisions seem to be removing variances and making some of the numerical improvements with regard to requests for impact of variance, I think it is a better application. It's hard to know. Obviously, it's going to stick with the variances that are stated because we don't know how that impact, like we don't have the backup for those changes. But but since they're being removed and we're not adding new ones, I think it's an acceptable approach.
Okay. Gary?
Well, I agree with the other members, yeah.
Okay. All right, then I'll look to someone for a motion.
So I'll put forward a motion, Chair. So I'd like to move a motion to approve this application as amended. Standard engineering conditions, and I believe they're forestry conditions number 3 for both part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
I think that's all.
Yep, that's what I have.
Yeah.
All right, motion by Mr. Byatt to approve with those conditions, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Okay. Item number 20, 33 to 37 Parliament. This is an application to obtain consent to sever the property into 3 lots with a strata severance and to create various easements, rights of ways within the 33-story mixed-use building, which is currently under construction. Committee has before it a copy of the draft plan of survey. We have a copy of plan of survey, covering letter from the agent, previous decision number affecting the subject property, easements and parts listing from the agent. We have email correspondence from community planning and staff reports from engineering and construction services and Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Name and address.
My name is Kourash Fathi. I'm a development manager for the owner, Greywood Developments. I prepared a short kind of summary presentation that just clarifies the application.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I don't see it on the screen.
And we'll pull it up.
It was submitted yesterday. I don't know if it made it through. Yep, perfect. So that's the building. If you move on to the next page. So here I copied the staff report from May 30, which kind of lays out the site-specific zoning bylaw, the site plan control application, and the minor variance in 2023, and the condo application that's currently on file. The building is due to register for a condo in January of 2026. For reference, it's a 33-story condominium building, 557 units with a retail component on the ground floor and a commercial parking at the underground parking levels. And this application, it wants to sever the ground floor retail and the commercial parking from the balance of the development. And on the next page. These are the strata plans that show the components. So on the yellow is the retail, ground floor retail components, and the blue is parts belonging to the commercial parking, which is the shuttle elevator and the ramp, and the green is the balance of the site, which is the residential condo. And on the subsequent pages, that's the above the ground floor, it's the mezzanine floor, it's a double-story height. If we move on to the next one, and this shows the underground commercial parking. And the next one, this is the end of the commercial parking and where the residential parking begins. And that's it. Our application also includes all the easement language that allows for the parts to function properly. And I added an appendix based on the conditions that I saw regarding the water and so on, but we don't need to get into it unless there are any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think with that explanation, this is fairly straightforward. And it looks like you've got staff on board. So any questions, panel? Nope. All right, let's go into committee. It's highly technical, but fairly understandable. Does anyone want to make a comment or move a motion?
I'll make a comment and then a motion.
All right.
Yeah, it's just really understandable. These commercial properties and related parking infrastructure makes sense that it can be separate from the residential component of the building. That makes sense. The complexity of this is beyond my ability to understand how they actually negotiate this between the individual parties, but I'll leave that to them. But I think I make a motion that we approve this application.
There's engineering conditions.
And Metrolinx.
Is Metrolinx a condition? Or? Okay. All right. Motion to approve by Mr. Gogan, subject to engineering and Metrolinx, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay, move on to item number 21. 91 to 101 Raglan Avenue. This is an application to alter the development standards for a new 30-story mixed-use building by increasing building height, non-residential and residential GFA, and decreasing outdoor amenity space. Site plan control application is currently under review. There'll be a total of 305 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before a copy of the minutes of the April 23rd, 2025 public hearing. A copy of the plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, and a staff report from community planning.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, I'm a planning and development lawyer from McCarthy Tatro, and I'm representing the applicants and owners. As you heard, this is a tower that was approved by City Council in the form of zoning bylaw 1050-2022. It's on the east side of Raglan Avenue, which is more or less near St. Clair and Bathurst. It's a street that historically has had a lot of low-rise residential homes on it, but has been redesignated apartment neighborhoods by the city some time ago and has thereafter been redeveloping into tower-built forms like this one, and this is one of those said towers. And again, it's already approved by a site-specific bylaw. But as a result of the site plan application and subsequent discussions with city planning staff and others, it's resulted in the package of minor variances you see before you, which we're proposing for your approval and that we submit meet the 4 tests. You'll notice on the file that there is a staff letter that explicitly supports the proposed variances. I leave that to read that yourself. Again, they do explicitly note that they support the proposed variances, not just indifferent, if you will. And I dare I say, I think one of the reasons perhaps that they're supportive is that part of the impetus for this minor variance application is to implement a new objective of theirs. They've asked us to make modifications to permit a retail use in the base of the building, which wasn't previously contemplated, at least not in the form that they would like to see it. And so many of the variances you see implement that change. They think that's a positive change for the street to have that outward-facing retail use. And so that's what you see reflected in the variances here. It's also noted that there's no public objections. I think that's a credit to sort of the relatively limited nature of the variances in question and the general acceptance that this isn't particularly controversial. It's a project we're anxious to get moving with and would love your support on it. On these variances. And I'll just quickly go through what they are and how we believe that they meet the 4 tests. First, in respect of the general intent of the official plan, as I alluded to, we're in an apartment neighborhood. And this is already a site-specific approved zoning bylaw. So the notion of a tower here, even with the small height increase that is contemplated in the revised map 3 is very much in keeping with that intent and purpose of the official plan. In fact, the apartment neighborhoods designation policies are explicit that apartment neighborhoods contain not just apartment buildings, but small-scale commercial uses. And that's what exactly we're trying to implement here with these minor variances, a small-scale commercial use. The second test being the intent and purpose of not just general bylaws 569-2013, but also site-specific bylaw 1050-2022. If you were to compare side-by-side the revised map 3 to the one that's contained within the site-specific bylaw, you'd see only very minor changes. In fact, on some aspects of the podium level, we've significantly decreased the height in that mapping to sort of illustrate that there's some trade-offs, if you will, lower scale podium height in exchange for some height on top of the tower. That's sort of one of the key takeaways there. And again, some of the key sort of features, the basic setbacks, the balcony exclusion zones and whatnot that are part of that delicate balance reached with City Council on that site-specific bylaw approval remain intact in the revised map 3. So we really do think that the requested variances, as staff seem to agree, meet the general intent and purpose of both the general and the site-specific zoning bylaw. In terms of whether it's a desirable, appropriate development for the neighborhood, for the city, none of the changes we're talking about have any material impact on the things that might trouble this committee in some other cases. Traffic. There's no increase in vehicular traffic associated with these changes. Wind, shadow, those things are either de minimis or non-existent. And so some of those negative things that sometimes that concern us with modifying built form just don't seem to be present in terms of the the modifications being requested here. And again, it's not a surprise because it's very similar, as you can see, to put it mildly, to the site-specific zoning bylaw that's rigorously been tested on all those fronts and just hasn't changed much and has already been approved. And then finally, minor in nature, again, like we can go through them one by one, but I think both individually and cumulatively, they do constitute minor changes. Again, a small height increase, but again, offset by other changes to the built form elsewhere. There is a net slight increase in residential GFA, but again, very small, and still this building is by no means sort of out of proportion to the other buildings that are already approved elsewhere on the same street and under construction in that immediate vicinity. So subject to your questions, Mr. Chair and members, we would submit it does meet the intent and purpose of the official plan. Zoning bylaw is minor in nature and does represent appropriate and desirable development neighborhood, and therefore should be approved. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. The only thing that stuck out for me was the reduction in outdoor amenity space, and I didn't hear you speak to that.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chair, and perhaps I could have clarified that up front. You know, one thing that distinguishes this project from a lot of others, and if you were to look at the site-specific zoning bylaws, you'll see that we're providing a very large mid-block connection. It's a new laneway, pedestrian and vehicular connection to the laneway. It's going to serve the public, as well as a POPs area at the front of the building. You know, those aren't sort of credited towards our amenity space, but you know, they probably in principle should be. So when you account for that, like that's not something every project does, but there's a very large, and it's outlined in the site-specific bylaw. I'm not sure if there's a copy of the site-specific bylaw on the committee's files, but I can certainly refer you to the exact clause within the Schedule A of that bylaw, which spells out those dimensions. But it is substantially sized mid-block connection that it's going to create a way for pedestrians to get from Raglan to the laneway behind, and as vis-a-vis another development happening just next door, about 2 doors to the south, there's a new mid-block park connection there. So this is going to allow pedestrians and residents to sort of meander through, not have to go the long route around down to St. Clair, whatnot, to get to Heath Street and to get to the station. So what's not illustrated here is you can see Heath Street, and unfortunately it's not labeled. So for those, I think the committee knows the neighborhood well, knows where Heath Street is. There's 2 buildings being demolished there to create a public park. And so this mid-block pedestrian connection is going to allow people from Maplewood and everyone to the west of that, instead of having to walk down to St. Clair and go the long way around, so to speak, will be able to walk through this site, through this mid-block connection. And it's also going to create a new, in addition to the lane widening that we're doing, conveyed to the city widening, we're creating, it's a vehicular access as well, sort of a Woo-Norfie sort of situation. And that's illustrated sort of there in white. If you're looking at the site plan, you see the tower and building footprint, and you see sort of the mezzanine and sort of a lighter shade. And you see that white area to the right, sort of rectangular underneath the building. That's the area I'm talking about, and that's going to create that. Yeah, again, we can cursor over it. So my point is that the POPs area at the front, which is spoken about in the site-specific zoning bylaw, as well as that mid-block connection area, which is substantially also being secured as a public benefit or whatever, we hadn't really explicitly gotten credit for that. So that to me is a mitigating factor that offsets outdoor amenity space and whatnot when you're providing that sort of thing. Anyway, and again, I reiterate that staff have no objection to this, and I think that's part of the reason why, dare I say, and we're not out of step with other buildings. There are plenty of other site-specific zoning bylaws that already have that sort of amount of amenity space. Anyway, thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any further questions? So here?
Just a couple of quick ones. Just to help me understand, so you originally approved for a 30-story building, and you're increasing the height. I believe it was 40 meters. I can't remember how many meters increase. What does that translate into stories? So from a 30-story, what would it be? That's
a great question, Mr. I should say member. There is no story limit explicitly spelled out in the bylaw, so you don't see a variance for stories, but there is a height limit on Schedule D. So the increase is from the existing bylaw is 84 meters, and the new revised would be 98.5, I believe. So 14 and a half. And a very rough math, although it's not exact, it's 3 meters per story is a very rough math, right? So we're just shy of 5 stories equivalent, but that's not quite fair because we're going to be kind of jockeying within the existing height envelope, and so but it would be the equivalent of 14 and a half meters height increase. So it's not necessarily going to lead to 5 stories, but it could be roughly the equivalent to 5 stories if you understand.
Okay, and just help me understand, because I'm not sure if I heard correctly, but you're adding some commercial space at the base of the building?
Right. So a number of the variances relate to that. And so the site-specific bylaw contemplated a little space for commercial. This is basically a residential street now, for those who know Raglan Avenue. And the city's vision is that they want to introduce small-scale retail use there, like a convenience store type of thing. That's something that I know this committee does, follow, debate about what considers good planning. They want to create sort of those small scale retail opportunities. As I said, the apartment neighborhoods designation the OP explicitly contemplates and encourages. They want to encourage, and there isn't anything like that here. So so we were ready to revise our plans, as you see, to permit such enough GFA, non-res GFA, a very small increase for it, what's going to basically be a small convenience store in the base of the building. And there's even a variance that talks about how such, and this is just how the default zoning bylaw is written, the general zoning bylaw, such convenience stores should be sort of accessible from the inside of the building, and we're saying it can be outward facing, if you will. So it's not just a thing it's not a tuck shop for the people who live in the building, it's a convenience store that anyone can sort of have. This is an amenity that the city thinks is important, it's part of their vision, and we were happy to implement it through these variances. Anyway, there's a number of variances related to that, and that wasn't our idea, but we're doing it, so to speak. Yeah.
So very crudely put, my crude understanding would be that you're almost lifting the building up a little bit to insert commercial. Would that be
I wouldn't go that
crude
far.
Understanding?
Just because it's a small area, it's a small area. Floor,
okay.
Right? It's a very small area. Pardon me if I just consult the exact area set bill and the variances. It's like 100 square meters. It's not. Pardon me. It's spelled out in one of the variances as I flip to that page. Yeah, the non-residential GFA will be only 172 square meters, right? So right now there's a permitted, in the bylaw, permitted 20 square meters as of right, which is tiny. This would permit one of 172 square meters, so still fairly small. That's not a whole floor, not even close, right? So I wouldn't say you're lifting up the whole building for that. It's going to be incorporated as a part of the base building, right? And it was going to be where some of the amenity space was going to be. Perhaps that's a point to respond to the chair's sort of comment earlier. We had contemplated an amenity there, so we're kind of expanding it at the expense of the amenity, if you will. That was a city priority that they wanted that there, and we're implementing it for them. And I think that's part of the reason why they're supportive.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Gary?
Yes, and if your client's comfortable in accepting of the planning staff report, which calls for a further financial contribution, I take it to sort of in conjunction with what were earlier Section 37 benefits?
Yeah, I'll just say we don't object to it in this case. It's part of the happy compromise reached with staff. There might be other files where we do, but on this file, we don't object.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can't imagine an applicant not wanting to contribute substantial funds to the city for important things like this. All right, anything else? All right, no further questions. Let's take this into committee. I feel like I've seen this one a couple times already. Who wants it? Gary, what do you think? You'll pass on this one? All right. So here, I'm going to go to you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm always a little bit hesitant when it comes to increasing pre-approved structures like this, the high-rises. And I'm not sure how convinced I am of the necessity for the additional height. I I do
Okay.
agree that it's in an area that, you know, we've got a number of high rises. It's a pretty busy intersection, rapidly developing. But yeah, I'm not convinced about the height.
Yeah, I'm all this way, and I mean, we seem to be getting an awful lot of these top-up applications, and sometimes they're appropriate, other times they do raise concerns. In this case, I'm not too fussed by it because this is an area that is undergoing a fairly significant amount of transition, and it is close to major thoroughfares. It's close to St. Clair with the LRT. It's going to be, if Bathurst does get a BRT or something like that, I think it'd be really good. And I think the incremental increase in the number of units is a positive thing. I also like the idea of introducing or allowing for this kind of commercial at-grade activity. It's hard. I sympathize with developers and development applications that preserve part of the development for retail, and it more often than not ends up staying vacant, which I think is actually a negative for the community. So in this instance, it sounds like there's some momentum to actually have an end user on that ground floor retail, which I think will go a long way to support the other residential areas in the neighborhood. So I think it's a supportable application, and planning staff are okay with it, and the city is getting additional contributions. Presumably it'll be reallocated to parkland. Anyone else?
I'll comment and then I'll move the motion.
Okay.
I know this area well because I used to live at Vaughan and St. Clair when I first moved to Toronto, and that area is, you're right, transforming, and there's almost like a momentum behind it where as you get more people and more connectivity to transit, you need also the amenity and commercial space to support it. And there's also the large high school nearby, actually Vaughan Road Academy and St. Mike's and others. So again, I think it's growing fast. I think the proposed improvements with regard to commercial and other are definitely improve the application. So I move we approve the application, and I think I'm trying to think if there's any other.
Well, there's a planning condition for the contribution. There's a forestry advisory, but it's not a condition.
Yeah, just the planning staff.
Yeah. All right, motion by Mr. Gogan to approve, subject to planning condition. Do I have a seconder? Mr. McKay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. Okay. Move on to item number 22. 647 College Street. This is an application to convert the existing 3-story mixed-use building into a residential building and to construct a rear ground floor patio. There will be a total of 6 residential dwelling units on this lot. No automobile parking spaces will be provided on the lot. Committee has before it a copy of the minutes from the May 28, 25 public hearing, copy of plan of survey, revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have email correspondence from Transportation Review. And correspondence and support from 647 College Avenue, units 202, 302, and 301.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Through you, Mr. Chair, committee members, and committee adjustment staff, Salvatore Crimi, address 2572 Eglinton Avenue West. There seems to be a mix-up because we're actually requesting a deferral on this application. Through request of community planning, there was concerns about the conversion of the ground floor commercial unit and basement unit being eliminated from entirety. So we since revised the application to introduce a live-work unit on the ground floor. As such, through further review, we triggered a variance for bicycle parking spaces. There were issues with accommodating the spaces at the rear of the building, and as such, improper notice is resulting from the incurred additional variance, and we request to be rescheduled to the next available hearing date.
Okay, well, it's a pretty automatic deferral request. We don't have that information before us, but we'll trust that you've had those discussions with community planning, and we'll just take this into committee. Does anyone want to move a deferral? It sounds like a good reason and rationale. Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to defer by Mr. Gogan, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your deferral, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we move on to item number 23. 201 Gilbert Avenue. This is an application to construct a new one-story detached garage in the rear yard of the existing two-story dwelling abutting the laneway. Committee has before a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of subject property. Are we starting this one? Do I have to hold off? This is a 3 o'clock start or 3:30?
It's 3 o'clock.
Thank you. Copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of subject property, and we have an advisory report from Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Members, my name is Eddie Perez. We're at 537 Rogers Road, and it's a pretty straightforward application. We're just asking for a garage at the rear of the property.
Yes, I would agree. Panel, any questions? Okay, let's go into committee. This is very straightforward. Anyone have any comments or want to move a motion? Whose hand? Paul?
I'll move it. Yeah, thanks. Again, the photograph, I always like to say things that are helpful. The photographs are super helpful to understand the site and the conditions, and the application is minor in nature, so I recommend we approve this application.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gogan to approve, no conditions, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor?
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
We have to vote first, Eddie.
Oh, I thought you said, oh, sorry.
You never know. You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Item 24. 53 Chelsea Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling containing 1 secondary unit within the basement by reconstructing the 2nd-story portion of the existing rear 2-story addition and to construct a rear 3rd-story addition with a roof deck. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 2 photographs of the subject property, covering letter from the agent, and a legal description letter from the agent. We have email correspondence from the zoning examiner and from an advisory report from Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is John Boone. I'm an architect acting as agent for the owners.
Okay, sir.
My address is 51 Arundel Avenue, Toronto.
Thank you, sir. Just hang on a sec. Panel, does anyone need a presentation on this one?
No.
Quite straightforward. We don't have a, sir, we've read your application. We're familiar with the material. We don't have any, we don't require a presentation today. We may have some questions, but before we do that, is there anything you'd like to share with the committee?
Nothing at all right now, unless you do have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Zahir, did you have a question?
Yeah, just a question about the, pardon me, rear deck that you have on the 3rd floor. I believe there's east and west overlook rather. So I was just wondering about privacy screening of that deck on the east and west sides.
If the committee feels it's necessary, it's not one of the variances that's listed. Both of the neighbors are good with the proposal. So I don't believe that it is necessary. They may in fact wish to do that once they begin occupying that with plants or other kinds of screening, but I don't think that the opaque barriers are necessary here.
I think it's always a good thing to have, because even though it may, people may not be objecting to it at this point, I think longer term, it's good to have that in place. So if
Yeah, on the, on both sides or just the one, the closer side?
I believe it might be both east and west sides from, let me just go back to the site plan, get a sense. Probably more on one side than the other, and you've got a house that's very close to you. I can't quite make out the direction, whether it's the east or the west.
It would be on the east side.
On the east side?
Yeah.
So perhaps on the east side might be a good idea.
For the opaque, yeah, no, we don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? See none? Let's go into committee. To here?
Sure, Chair, I'd like to move a motion to approve, and the only condition would be that there be privacy screening on the rooftop, third floor rear rooftop deck on the east side.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Byatt to approve with that condition, seconded by Mr. Gogan. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval with that condition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Item 25, 134 Carlton Street. This is an application to alter the existing three-story apartment building containing 35 rental dwelling units by converting the basement level storage rooms and a building management office and a portion of the ground floor into additional 11 rental dwelling units. There will be a total of 46 rental dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. A revised site plan, floor plans, and elevations received June the 13th. Red line public notice received June the 13th. Revised zoning notice received June the 13th. 18 photographs of the subject property, a covering letter from the agent, correspondence from the applicant, a copy of email correspondence between the applicant and Solid Waste Management Services, planning rationale from the agent, transportation analysis, an arborist report, presentation materials from the agent, and a rental housing demolition and conversion declaration of use and screening form. We have email correspondence from Heritage Services, from Transportation Review, staff report from Urban Forestry, and an advisory report from Urban Forestry. There is interest and concern from Unit 16429 and one no unit provided from 134 Carlton. There's opposition from 134 Carlton, Unit 32, and materials in opposition from 134 Carlton, Unit 17. Good
Through you,
afternoon.
Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person as well as, I believe, one registered speaker.
Good afternoon. Name and address, please.
Good afternoon. Stephanie Quast, 3 Church Street, Suite 200.
Okay, ma'am. We have some people who want to speak to this, and I think you've been here before, so maybe you could give us an overview presentation.
Sure. I submitted slides.
Is your microphone on there?
Yes, it's on.
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better, thanks.
Okay. I'm happy to just give an overview, or would you like me to walk you through the slides that I submitted?
It's your time, however you want to use it.
Okay, maybe I'll ask if you could put up the PDF presentation. I'll be quick, but I thought the visuals might help to explain. So maybe while that's being pulled up, I'll just get into it. So thank you for the time today. I'm a planner with Bousfields. Again, my name's Stephanie Quast, and I'm here today seeking for transportation-related variances. As you noted, staff have no concerns. We've talked to Heritage, Transportation, and Planning, and we're pleased that we've satisfied the dialogue in that regard. Before I get into it, I just want to mention, as you said...
Just before you get too far, you've got a red line public notice. You've made some changes to the variances, right?
Not to the variance, to the provision reference. There was an error made.
Okay.
So the provision has been corrected.
The provision.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that mean? Is that the actual just
Through you,
reference
Mr.
of the
Chair.
bylaw?
It's, yeah, where it says chapter.
Oh, okay. That's fine. But the rest of the actual variance is
Yes.
unchanged.
No
Okay, I'm
change
sorry
to-
for interrupting. Go ahead.
No worries, no worries. I just wondered if the presentation could be put up line? Okay. Okay. So while we're waiting for the slides, and quickly, because I know I'm running out of time here, a couple of letters were filed last week with the C of A. By some of the tenants, some of whom are here today. One of the concerns raised was with respect to the loss of the laundry room that currently exists within the building. The owner, upon receiving this news last week, has talked to the tenants, posted signs in the building, and confirmed that they will not lose that laundry room. We will modify the plans, the laundry room will remain, and even during construction of these new rental units, the laundry room will be relocated to a different area of the building so that there is absolutely no loss of laundry services for the existing tenants. So I just wanted to mention that off the bat to let you know that that concern has been at the forefront of the owner's mind. Okay, so the site, if we could go to slide 2 quickly. Perfect, right. So there's the aerial photo. You see the site there. It's right in the downtown, located on the north side of Carlton, between Jarvis and Sherbourne. It has excellent access to higher order transit, and there's also a lot of green P parking, as you can see there on with the symbols, both on the north and south sides of Carlton. There's also a number of bicycle racks along Carlton, and the site itself is within 200 meters walking distance of 2 Toronto bike share stations. Next. So on site today, and I'll show you a photo in a moment, is a 3-story walk-up apartment building. It was built in 1926. It's a listed heritage building, and it currently houses 35 rental apartment units. As you can see here, the building today is built very, very close to its property lines. It's in existing condition. Next. So there's a photo of the building itself. There's no vehicular parking or formal loading areas associated with the building. That's how it operates today, and that's how it will continue to operate going forward due to those minimal building setbacks. Next, please. Just quickly, in terms of the planning context, you can see here this is a land use map from the official plan, designated mixed-use areas, an area where much of the city's anticipated new housing is meant to really be located. Next, please. And here's the zoning. Similarly, it has that mixed-use commercial residential zoning. Next, please. So the proposal today is to provide 11 more rental housing units by using the underutilized storage and building management office areas on the lower level and a portion of the first floor. This opportunity to provide more rental housing has triggered the need for 4 variances related to loading, visitor and accessible parking, as well as bike parking. Next, please. So just with respect to the first 3 variances there, the loading and the parking, as I said, given that this is an existing building built in 1926, there is no loading area on site today and there is no parking provided on site. So with the addition of these 11 rental units, there would be no change to the current operation on the site and no adverse impacts anticipated. Next, please. So variance 4 there is with respect to the bicycle parking. So today, the building is solely accessed by stairs. There's no elevator, there's no ramp. So we're not able to accommodate the 10 long-term bike parking spaces that have been triggered by the citywide bylaw. In lieu of this, we are able to provide more short-term bike parking than is required, and that's 7 spaces. And these short-term spaces are proposed along Carlton Street there, but in a secured, locked enclosure, and it's even noted there on the architectural plans. So we really are trying to balance the provincial and municipal objectives of providing more rental housing with the existing constraints of the site as it exists today. So to conclude quickly, I wanted to just mention that a letter in support of these variances from our transportation engineer has been provided, and that's from Arcadis. I have also submitted a letter that addresses the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and it is my conclusion that we do meet those 4 tests. These variances will facilitate more rental housing in our city in an appropriate location and in an appropriate manner, and I respectfully request your approval today. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Panel, can we hold our questions till we hear from the speakers? Thank you very much.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just looking out into the audience. Who here wishes to speak for this application? Okay, come up.
Hi.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sammy Lim. I live on 134 Carlton Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have 5 minutes, sir.
Oh, okay. Could we pull up my email file dated July 2? It's size 3.61. Yeah, that's the one. There, maybe you could start with image number 1. There. My talk is mostly concerning about the missing laundry room. Image 1 currently shows a laundry room in the basement.
I'm just going to interrupt you, sir. I know you came in late, but
Oh.
the agent indicated that they were definitely going to be providing a laundry room in the new development.
Oh, okay.
So, not sure if you heard that or not.
No.
If that's your major concern, we'll ask the agent to speak to it when she returns again, but she has indicated that there will be a laundry room and there will also be laundry facilities provided on a temporary basis while the construction is underway. So if that's your only concern.
So temporary means it will be gone when after the renovation?
When she comes back, she'll explain that to you, but that's what she's told this committee. So if that's your major concern, it may be addressed.
Okay. How about another concern by another tenant, she's not here, is there's no more storage space left. So she's questioning where will management store the supplies and building maintenance supplies in the building?
Okay, that's a good question. We'll ask her to answer that when she comes back too.
Yes. Okay. And in my email, we were suggesting to put it in a first floor vacant room.
Okay, well, again, we'll ask her to answer those questions when she returns.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else here that wishes to speak, come up to the podium.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Greg Downer. I also reside at 134 Carlton, as well as all these lovely people here.
All right.
So I had just 3 quick points, and I did submit something earlier, but it doesn't necessarily need to be brought up for this presentation. So 2 quick points and then my main point. The first one is parking, and I don't know if it's part of this process, but if we'd had the opportunity to meet with the owners in advance, there's likely issues that we could have resolved. And just as an example, I agree with the variances around parking. There's just no physical space at the building, with one small exception. But what we could do, or the owners could negotiate with 140 Carlton next to us that just spent the last 8 years renovating their underground. And there's so many parking there. So that would be an option for them, more revenue for them, and then something we could say we could offer. But there's a laneway between us and 140 Carlton where Little B Supermarket parks 1 vehicle, Sky Dry Cleaners parks 1, and then the previous owner's son parked there because he had a business that he ran Monday to Friday. So there technically is the loading on and off spot right there because there's always an empty spot that fits 3 cars. So that could meet all the variances if we worked with our neighbor. But the main point for me today is just to talk about the necessity of a bike storage inside. I think I'm the last one in the building that has a bike. There's no elevators in the building, but I'm lucky enough that I can carry mine upstairs. I did submit picture, it's my unit on there. You can see how small it is. Most people have a double or queen, so they don't even have the luxury of having the bike in their unit. But the entrance to our building is also elevated, so it's 6 steps to get up. But the solution is right there because they're asking to turn that first floor unit into a 1-bedroom. And for the reasons I'm not going to get into here because they're listed in my document, that's a really bad space for a bedroom. It's right off the patio, which is well used. The entranceway is quite loud, but that's the perfect spot for a bike room. Now, I just learned from the consultant that there's actually all these requirements that I wasn't aware of, but 2 of those racks that go on the wall, if you're able to get the bike up 6 steps, you're going to be very easily put them on the wall racks and easily hold 8. Plus room for a few more right there on the floor. It's a nice sized room. But outdoor parking in our area is pretty pointless. If you walk Carlton at night from Yonge all the way to Parliament, you will not see a single bike locked up outside. All you will find are skeletons of bikes that have had parts stolen from them. Since I moved in, everyone that ever stored their bike outside has had it stolen, and that's about 6 bikes, and I moved in 4 years ago. The superintendent had hers stolen. The person next to me had hers stolen within 1 week. The person across from us who moved in had 2 stolen, and he was doing food deliveries. I usually sit across the street reading, and I've had to go up to Carlton Street and yell 4 or 5 times at street-involved people that were trying to steal the bikes that were parked there during the day. We had a tenant that lived on the 3rd floor that had the ugliest bike you can imagine on purpose. I called it a granny bike. It had this great big ugly basket on the back, and people kept trying to steal it. So as of now, no one has stored their bike outside for at least the last 18 months. The exception is people will tie it up to our patio gate if we're already sitting there and can keep an eye on somebody's bike or scooter in the short term. And of all my neighbors here, just to show you, if we had a safe indoor space to buy bikes, who would buy a bike? I would. So there's the answer right there. Just where we're located, they're not safe to keep outside. And the last issue is not being addressed today, and I spoke to the consultant with this in the hallway today, but since we're talking about the same physical space, where they're thinking of putting the laundry room is that first floor unit on the plans. It's also an ideal space for the bike room, but as it's up there right now, we don't have a lounge. Our units are so small, I can't host friends. I can't have a birthday party for myself. If I have a work function, we can't have it. The addition of a lounge in that space, if it's going to be part of a bike room and part of an ongoing laundry facilities, because it has the walkout that goes to the patio, it has the walkout, that's where the garbage and recycling bins are. And I would just really appeal to the new owners, and hopefully we get the chance to do that. If I had the ability to host family, friends, and guests and work colleagues, it's the difference between being a home or what I called in my document there, it feels like living in an institution. And that's kind of my comments for today.
Thank you, sir. Those were excellent comments and helpful suggestions, and I do hope that the owner takes some into consideration.
Yeah, we're willing to work with the applicant.
Sounds like a good approach. Panel, any questions of this guy before he runs off? Okay, thank you, sir. Any further speakers? Oh, yes, ma'am, come on up.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Curran, and I'm also a long-term resident at 134 Carlton. And I just have a question about accessibility. As was mentioned earlier by the planner, our building is nearly 100 years old. There are many stairs, there's no ramp, no elevator. And with this, if this were to be approved and they were to renovate the basement, would the building have to be brought up to code to meet accessibility?
That's a good question, whether it has to be AODA compliant, right? So we will ask that of the agent when she returns.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here that wishes to speak? We all good? All right, thank you. Is there anyone online?
Mr. Chair, no.
Okay. All right, ma'am.
Hello.
Some helpful suggestions?
Would you like me to run through the list?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So the laundry room, through you, Mr. Chair, the laundry room matter has been resolved, and I'm happy to share that information with you after this hearing. The second point was about where will building supplies go if we're essentially using much of the storage space in the basement for new rental units. And you'll see there on the plans there's a quite large boiler room. I was actually in that room maybe 2 weeks ago doing a thorough site visit. It's a very large room. It already today stores much of the tools and maybe shovels and brooms that the building super uses. The remaining spaces in the basement there are really vacant, and that's me being very honest. So if you're concerned about where shovels and tools for the building in order to keep it well maintained, it will go in the boiler room, which has the space to accommodate those needs. With respect to the parking, so you saw in the plans that the site doesn't offer the parking, but the gentleman mentioned the space on the east side of the building where particular users sometimes park. I looked into that. Our property line does not encompass the entirety of that area. So that space on the east side is actually I'd say half shared with us, half shared with 140 Carlton, the adjacent property.
It's not a right-of-way. It's
And there's no easement, it's not a right-of-way, it's private property.
Okay.
So we cannot formally declare that a parking space for our use, okay? Bike parking. So again, as of last week with the correspondence filed, we have heard the concerns about the proposed bike parking outside versus inside. And the owner has said that he is willing to explore if there is some opportunity inside the building to put some bicycle racks. That's a conversation that is going to continue. But as I was explaining outside, the zoning bylaw today has very specific requirements for inside bike parking. Location, size of stalls, and so on. Regardless of whether the owner and the tenants can fit some, say, informal bike parking inside, it might not meet the standard bylaw requirements, in which case we still would need the variance today to the bylaw. So for sure, that's a conversation that can continue, but the requirement for 10 long-term spaces that meet 569/2013, we still need that variance today. And as I said, in lieu of that, we've put 7, as much as we can fit outside, which is more than we need to. The requirement is only for 2. And you'll see there noted on the plan that it does have, I believe it says metal fence and access gate. So in speaking with the owner, obviously the concerns about bike theft are very serious. And so he is going to make sure that there is a structure there locked and only users of the building can have access to it. So I hope that addresses the concern, and I've advised the tenants that they should continue the discussion with the owner about putting some bike parking inside the building, perhaps not on a bylaw requirement basis, but on a more informal basis. And about the lounge, so I completely understand the comment that this building, given that it's quite old, does not have communal space for the tenants. While, in my opinion, a lounge is a nice to have, that would be at the expense of one rental housing unit. And we know through the provincial level, through the federal level, through the municipal level, the City of Toronto, we need more rental housing in this city. And so in my professional planning opinion, a small lounge at the expense of one rental housing unit in a downtown location at a not luxurious rate, in terms of balancing those public interest objectives, I would veer more on the side of keeping that rental unit so that someone can live in there at some point. So that's my professional opinion on that matter. And lastly, accessibility. I am not an expert on the building code. As far as I know, these units would not have to be accessed by an elevator or ramps. They could be accessed the way that the other units in the building are accessed today. But I'm not sure if staff know more than that. Maybe Toronto Building Department knows more than that. But as far as I know, you don't.
Yeah, we'll leave that for you to follow up on as required. I just wondered whether they have to be AODA compliant. I wasn't sure whether they do or not. That's usually new build rather than retrofits, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Chair, our discussions with staff, planning staff, that comment has not been raised at all.
Okay.
And they're fully in support of what we're trying to do here. So.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the committee were to consider a condition around the laundry room and the location of that laundry room, because as it currently stands, is it shown on the plans that we have?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's not, because this matter, as I said, was raised last week, and the cutoff date for filing plans with the C of A was before that.
So where would the laundry room be located?
It would go back into the basement where it's currently located today. That may be shown, that's shown on the submitted plans A100. Yes, you can see it there beside the boiler room.
So does that mean you have one less unit?
No. The owner has looked at it preliminary with the architect, and they just have to modify that unit there.
So you're just going to do some renovations to
Exactly.
accommodate both those rooms. Okay.
Yeah.
So
through you,
do you want to put something to tie them to that?
yes, I think the committee, if you choose to approve the application, state that the laundry room is to be maintained in the basement
Without being specific about where? I think that would be wise,
that's
because we don't want to
We just
lock them
wanna-
down to a particular
No,
location.
we just want to say that the laundry room facilities will be maintained in the basement, and that perhaps the boiler room can also act as a storage room.
For maintenance supplies and stuff.
Right, yeah.
So I'm just going to go back to the agent.
Fine with that. However, some of the tenants have asked that maybe the laundry room be located on the first floor. That's something where the owner is willing to explore. So happy to say a laundry room is to be provided at all times, but can we not tie it to the location just in case we can get it up to the first floor?
Okay, or we can say basement, laundry room to be maintained either on the basement level or first floor level. Okay.
That works? Okay. Gary?
So just wondering, would we have the same number of washers and dryers? You got any sense of that at this point? No, I'm just wondering if the existing tenants are going to face a smaller laundry room.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there has been some discussion about potentially providing stacked washers so that there's more space to potentially accommodate more machines, but the details of that have not been determined. As I said, this all came to light late last week on Friday, so that's the discussion that needs to continue. But the owner is well aware of that concern, yes.
No, I'm sorry, sir, your time's done. All right, so any more questions? All right, thank you. Let's take this into committee.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. Gary, were you suggesting that, like, equivalent to what's existing is maintained, and if more can be provided?
Yes, if I can work that into a condition, then that would be fine.
Put that in a condition? That seems...
Well,
actually specify number of units. That seems...
No, not number of machines, but I think the concern here is that whatever facilities are existing today for laundry remains as, right?
So nothing
if they're
less,
showing-
so you're basically nothing less than what is currently
Is
provided.
currently, yes.
Which sounds
Yeah.
reasonable.
Okay.
Leave it like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. We've got a lot to chew on here. Anyone have a comment? Sure, Paul?
First of all, it's a great location in the city. A heritage building, modifying and upgrading a building of that is a challenge.
Yeah.
The fact that they're finding additional housing units in an underutilized space, I think, is a big win for that part of Carlton. And I think that also relates to the accessibility issue, is that retrofitting heritage buildings is very challenging with regard to, maintaining the status quo typically is what happens. But on that, I think it's a good application. I think it's good dialogue between the residents and the owner and their representative. And I think the provision for laundry facilities throughout construction and after is a great outcome as well. So I support this application.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a really unique, another one, a very unique location that car travel is kind of impractical. People are mostly transit, walking, or bicycling. So I was discouraged to hear about how many thefts are happening in this area. I guess it shouldn't really surprise us, but that's a little unfortunate. But I am encouraged that the agent indicated that they would supplement the bike area with fencing, or to make it more secure. And frankly, I think maybe we could put that in as a condition, that the short-term parking, bicycle parking, have a secure fence around it, or I don't know if fence is the right word. But I think that would be very helpful in an area where there seems to be a propensity for thefts. And that, along with further discussions about inside bike storage, would, I think, be helpful. I don't think we could put a condition on that, but we can certainly encourage the agent, the owner through the agent, to continue efforts to see if they can come up with a good solution, because cars are not an option in this area. And I agree with you, Paul. You know, heritage buildings are notoriously difficult to renovate, so this is a good, I think, good proposal otherwise. Did you want to take a crack at the motion, sir?
Yes, so, all right.
Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Did you want to? Well, okay, well, I would move approval of the amended application, therefore approving the 4 variances, subject to conditions of requiring a secured area for short-term bicycle storage, a provision of a laundry room with equivalent number of washer-dryer.
Sorry, Gary, I'm just going to, no less. They might actually be able to provide better.
Yes, well, all right. All right, with no less than, no less than, you know, the current number of washer dryers. And
leave that to the magic of Sabrina to come up with good words around that.
Perfect. And I think, you know, there's something that is raised here, just in terms of like urban forestry. It was a little bit confusing. There's something talking about sort of the window wells, and I had a note is that whether they might have to apply to injure trees 1 and 2. Does that ring any bell for anybody?
I've just got written, it's a forestry advisory, right? So there's no conditions of this. All they're doing is flagging that there might be an issue down the road.
Thank you. That's good. Won't need it.
And can I just suggest it's an amended application because they changed they corrected one of the conditions.
I did say amended because it's, okay.
Okay. I think that's it. All right. Motion by Mr. McKay with those conditions. I have a seconder. Mr. Gogan, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. How many we got left? 10-minute break?
All right.
Let's take a 10-minute break. Gary, is that okay?
Oh, yes, it is. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
You knew that my nap time started at 4, eh? Yes.
Considerable cost.
It was a debate about how much cost.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. The city was saying 40.
Oh, that's right.
Province basically said.
It was just Bloor and, or is it?
Keep on, so, yeah, it's basically Bloor from the Humber west.
Right.
Because that's the route that he takes. When he drives from Etobicoke, comes along Bloor, goes down South Kingsway, gets the guard. That's his route. So he hates that. Of course, he comes up and down University Avenue, so he wanted to remove those ones. And I think it was Avenue Road, Avenue Road that he was trying to remove. Does that recall?
I think they're
Not the biggest problem we have to worry about, you're right.
I live at Young and St. Clair area, and there's like people who put signs up, remove the bike.
Yeah.
Traffic is bad on Young between Bloor and north of St. Clair. It's pretty bad. But it's safer for bikers now.
Well, I live in Swansea, so, part of Bloor that's west goes through the Kingsway up to Islington. To be quite honest, there's rarely a bike on it. It's really rarely. And we shop owners do this. And they feel they're losing customers when they park on the street. So,
One of the good things of the bike lanes, and maybe even all these drivers, bike is that people now look in the bike lane when they turn left.
yeah, that is true.
They
Well,
look.
not everybody, but
But
yeah,
they're
most
looking
people.
way more, and they're cautious. And I actually sometimes I feel like the bikers are actually respecting traffic signals more and more now too.
Blowing, the
They're
people
not
aren't blowing through stop
They're not
signs
always
and reds
blowing
like
through them. They
used
still
to.
do, but they're not always blowing.
I think part of the problem going west is that there are really only 3 crossings of the Humber. Right? You can cross the Humber at Queensway, Bloor Street, and Dundas. And you're getting already bunching of people going east-west, and then when you reduce Bloor down to 1 lane each, you're getting, particularly at peak times, it really gets congested. So that, I think, is probably the main contributing factor to that.
I think the real core requires a special solution. The real core, where there's bikes and cars and people. Like the signal, everything is crazy. Like the number of people crossing and bikes moving is incredible.
Yeah. I agree. And, I always thought, like, Springtown red light cameras everywhere. Like, if Sabrina blows through those red lights, like, you would blow through. It's unbelievable. She sees a red light, she says that just means maybe stop. But people are blowing through reds, like, yeah, and stop signs. Like, it's really bad.
I sent it.
They've had their 5th camera, red light camera, cut down, right? They've had somebody that's been
it's the
renting
park lot
for
one,
5
yeah.
or 6 months. It's apparently the richest in terms of parking tickets in this town.
You heard what they did? They put a camera on the camera.
They put a camera on the camera, but somebody still took
But
care of
there's houses all on the other side of Parkside. I mean, someone would say, how can you put a couple cameras out here watching that thing? I don't know why they can't put it in there.
I know about the red light, shooting the red lights. So I sent a nice little note to my counselor and of course copied it to Olive next door. And I said, apart from saving lives, talk about a money generator.
Yeah. Well, again, that's where it becomes an issue, right? Vaughn has backed off speed cameras, so all it takes is a bunch of people complaining.
Yeah.
And, the elected officials seem to cave.
They cave too quickly. Thanks for the break.
All right. We continue. We are on item 26, 238 Delaware Avenue. This is an application to construct a new one-story ancillary building in the rear yard of the property abutting the private laneway. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations, covering letter from the agent, previous decision number affecting the subject property, tree protection plan, and we have a staff report from Urban Forestry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as registered speaker online, both from the same address, so we'll just probably hear from one of them.
Okay. Good afternoon. Maria.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, my name is Maria DeNegri from DeNegri Bestside Studio, located at 1088 Bathurst Street. I am the architect retained by the homeowners, and I'm here today acting as the applicant.
Okay, ma'am, you're proposing a one-story garage, but we do have someone who is registered to speak about this, so we'll need a short presentation.
Okay. I think the presentation, if you pull up the cover letter that was included as part of the package, I think basically that summarizes it quite nicely. There's an existing small one-story garage on the property, which is in state of disrepair, close to collapsing. The building itself is too small for the current family vehicle, so the door's never closed, and the vehicle sticks out a little bit. What we're proposing to do is to replace the structure with a slightly larger garage, but that still complies within the footprint. It's a one-story structure. The variance presented here before you today is for a zero setback on the north property line. The north property line is the side yard with the neighbor to the north. And it's the result of the unique condition where the alleyway is not necessarily at the rear of the property, but rather it's right of way. And so you hit the garage from the side.
Right.
So if the building were any smaller, you can see in the cover letter, we attempted to mimic the kind of turning radius or approach into the garage, which would make it very, very difficult. So that image you have right there on the screen shows you how you access the garage. It's a series of private lanes and then a right-of-way. That private lane at the top of the sheet goes out onto Dovercourt Street, just north of Bloor. So I am happy to, so basically it is the north, it's the north property line in question. Garages are required to have a 1 meter setback from a rear property line. This is a very unique condition and situation in where the garage does not face the rear, it faces the side. So we are asking you to consider our variance request for a zero setback at this particular condition in order to be able to use the garage.
Okay, so just for orientation, so a car comes into your garage.
Apologies. A car is traveling on Dovercourt. If you're traveling north on Dovercourt, you would turn right into the alley, that first private lane, then head east and then turn south, and then eventually land in your garage, right?
Right.
That's it. Otherwise, the property is kind of landlocked.
Yeah, no, it was, staff had just put up A100, which answered the question that I had, was when you drive into the garage, what's the orientation of the vehicle? So
when you're driving into the garage, you'd be facing south, and then when you turn and park your garage, your car would be facing east.
Yeah, it looks like a challenging park. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Gary?
Hi. like play lawyer for a moment, and that's the setbacks for an ancillary building abutting a laneway, and you're saying this is abutting a number of private drives, right?
Well, it's a private lane, and I mean, it is
It's
called
not
a private
it's
lane.
not a
or
big
it's-
issue, but I think when it says laneway, I think we have to interpret that as a public laneway and not something else, but that's just my own view.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that was our first question to the zoning examiner when we did get the notice. We asked for clarification because as I'm not putting my lawyer hat on, but when I reread the zoning, I think a laneway is public. And so we asked if the meter setback applied here, given that it's not a public laneway, but rather a private. And we were told that it did. So, which is why I am here today.
Exactly, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? We do have someone registered to speak.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owners at 39 Northumberland Street.
Hello.
Hi there. My name is Augie. We just live at 39 Northumberland Street. We were more or less curious about what you meant by zero variance. Like, do you mean like you want to move the garage all the way up against the other existing property?
Hang on. I'm just trying to find your address relative to this application.
We would be, Northumberland Street would be the street that would back onto this private laneway to the south.
To the south.
No.
Can someone help me out here? I'm having difficulty with the orientation here.
What was the
So
He's from
Northumberland
39
Street
Northumberland.
Correct. It runs east-west, north, one street north of Lore between Ossington and Westmoreland.
This property is south of North.
Yeah, so is your property affected by this application?
My neighbor's property is, he's just not in town, so he's asked me to step in. They would live across the street from us, and their property would be directly, they would share this private lane to the back of their property off of Delaware, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
I believe.
What number are they?
They would be, 39? They would be 34 and 36 going across, I believe. 46 and 48. There would be in the, yeah.
I'm struggling here, guys.
So, sorry, my bad. I'm giving you the wrong unit number.
Yeah, I think
They would be in number 40, and that would be 42. Sorry. According to the map,
They won't be affected.
So.
Okay. They were just curious if they would be affected by it at all. He's not here. He's out of town, so he's just asked me to ask that question, and that's all.
Okay, sir, it doesn't look like your friend's property is affected by this proposal because your friend's property doesn't have access to that laneway.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Then I think we don't need to go back to the agent. I don't think so. Does anyone have any questions of the agent? None? All right. We don't have any questions, so we'll take this into committee. Sure, go ahead.
Chair, thank you. This is an extremely straightforward application. My only concern is for the owner driving in and out. It's tricky, and obviously they're excellent at maneuvering the vehicle. I don't believe there are any issues with this particular application, so I'd like to move approval. I believe there's a forestry, pardon me, forestry number 2 condition attached. But that's it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Byatt to approve, subject to forestry. Do I have a seconder? Mr. McKay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Item number 27 is 16 Trenton. This is an application to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a complete second-story addition, a front covered porch, a side basement walkout, a rear ground floor deck, a rear second-story Juliet balcony. The roof of the rear one-story ancillary building will be raised. There will be a total of 2 residential dwelling units on this lot. Committee has before a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, and an arborist report.
For you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Sabal Methna from QBS Architects. I am the agent.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't think we're going to need a presentation today. There's just a single variance before us. We've read your application. We're familiar with the material. Is there anything you'd like to share with the panel before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, sir, I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right, we're in committee. Pretty straightforward, guys. Who wants it? Paul?
Yeah. Again, this is a very minor variance requested with regard to lot coverage. Minimal implication on the adjacent buildings or the neighborhood, so I propose that we approve this application.
Okay, motion for approval by Mr. Gogan, no conditions, seconded by Mr. McKay, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you, ma'am. Item number 28 is 20 Withrow Street. This is an application to construct a temporary outdoor shelter pavilion for community gatherings, staging area for supplies and equipment during reconstruction of Ward Island Clubhouse. The committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, a site-specific zoning bylaw affecting the subject property, and email correspondence from TRCA.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to bring to your attention, we did receive a planning staff report yesterday.
Okay.
And I'll ask the presenter to present it. It's just to state that planning staff have no concerns with the requested variances for this temporary situation.
Okay, thank you. And do we have the agent with us?
Yes, we do, and no registered speakers.
Good afternoon.
My name is Allison Zosky. I live at 28 Bayview. I am the president of the Wards Island Association. I put the package together. Also will be joining us any minute now is Kim Scottwood, who is our building chair. So we did get a letter from the planning committee saying that they respectfully recommend the Committee of Adjustment approve our application. And their comments, if you'd like me to read them to you, are the applicant proposes to construct a temporary outdoor shelter pavilion to house a community gathering facility and staging area for the Wards Island Clubhouse reconstruction. The clubhouse was an important community facility for island residents and visitors that was unfortunately destroyed by fire in the summer of 2024. Community planning staff have no concerns with the proposal.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly straightforward application. We quite understand what you're proposing. I'm not sure we'll need to hear from your colleague. Panel, does anyone have any questions? Yes, Paul?
What's temporary mean?
It means it's there until we build the clubhouse, depending on what the clubhouse needs. are, but we could keep it should we need to because it's a sound structure, but we could take it down and use the building for the materials for the clubhouse building, depending on what is decided to build. But the idea was it would be temporary until we had a clubhouse because we have no place to gather.
Do you know what the timing of that would be?
No, we don't. It will be quite a while because it's a long, complicated process to get the building set.
Anywhere from 2 to 5 years?
That's probably a good guess, yes.
Okay. So that's a capital T temporary.
If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
It's supposed to be built by volunteer labor, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm-hmm. Overseen by a contractor.
and hence it'll take time.
Is it possible to put a 5-year duration on this variance so that if the structure's still up after 5 years, they have to come back to renew?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable suggestion. Frankly, I think that might actually help as a bit of a motivator to kind of to get at your work. I'm sure you don't need any motivation to rebuild your clubhouse, but
No, but could we let in my colleague, Kim?
okay.
Because he's more versed in building than I am, and he wants to address this.
Is there a Kim?
Kim, are you there?
Is there a Kim online? We don't have anyone online.
Oh.
But you know, oh, we do. Yes, we do. Hang on.
There he is.
Kim.
Kim Scottwood. No, he's not.
Is he unmuted?
Kim, you have been unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I think that...
Oh, sorry, Kim. Just for the record, could we get your name and address, please, sir?
Sorry, Kim Scottwood, 40 Ojibwe Avenue on Toronto Island.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm the building chair and general contractor. I deal with the city on a daily basis. And so the tricky part in all of this is that as much as you guys, you know, are trying to add incentive, the incentive is already there, as someone stated. And the problem is that it's not in our hands because this is actually provincial land. It's on them. And so we don't know what they're going to do. And so the problem is if this takes 6 years, and, you know, as much as we'd love to say it's going to be 5 years, we're hoping it's less. The problem is going to be, like, we don't need more incentive. We have all the incentive in the world. This, you know, building was the heart and soul of the island and it was burned down. And we don't need more incentive is what I can say. Like,
No, I wasn't trying to impugn your motivation on this one. I think the panel is trying to figure out, like, it's hard for us to put in indefinite time on something that's temporary.
can we say 10 years then? I mean, just because, like,
That seems very long, sir.
It's already been a year and a half and we've
No,
gone nowhere.
I understand, sir, but what we would probably like to do is put a 5-year term on it, and what that would mean, that wouldn't mean it would be illegal after that point. It would simply mean you or your successor or whoever would just simply need to come back to the committee and extend that. And I think that's probably in the public interest to do that so that we don't have a temporary structure lasting forever.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll do that. But as I say, that doesn't mean that the structure would be illegal. It would just mean you'd have to kind of come back and get that approval refreshed.
Understood.
Okay.
That's fair.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's take this into committee. Paul, do you want to move this one?
Yeah, I'll move it. I'll move it. Yeah, we appreciate the information that the applicant provided. Again, we understand the situation that they're in. They're, as I said, a very important part of their community. And I think a 5-year time, asking them, in addition to the application as it stands, putting a condition of a 5-year duration for the approval would be an appropriate way forward.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Gogan to approve, subject to a 5-year period, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. And good luck to all. Item number 29 is 260 Roxton Road. This is an application to alter the existing 2-story townhouse dwelling by constructing rear 1- and 2-story additions, a rear second-floor deck above the new rear 1-story addition, and a rear ground floor deck. The existing rear 1-story addition, rear ground floor deck will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and 3 photographs of the subject property.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Christopher Xavier, you've been unmuted.
Is he there? Christopher, you're unmuted if you want to.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Xavier, 116 Bowie Avenue. I am the designer and agent representing the clients.
Okay. Hang on a sec, sir. Anyone need a presentation? Anyone have a question? Paul?
It looks like this is a mirror of the other side of the semi. Is that approximately correct? That the
You could say so. It's actually less. So the first page kind of gives you the 3D illustration of where the attached neighbor's dwelling kind of lands. It is a 3-story. We are just proposing a 2-story. We're matching the rear yard kind of depth of the first and second, but at a smaller mass overall.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Sir, we don't have any other questions. Before we take it into committee for a decision, is there anything you'd like to share with us?
Sure. I just wanted to kind of highlight the nature of the proposal. It's a bit of an interesting lot if you look at the site plan, because there is a section of the property that does not belong to both this property and the other across the walkway. Because of that, you can see that basically half of the depth of the garage is reduced, reflecting a smaller overall property boundary. It's an interesting little scenario I haven't seen before, but it does play a significant part on why the variances have been triggered.
Sorry, the lot line.
Yeah, you can see the lot line there.
Goes through the garage?
Yeah, if you look at the back, there's almost like but that walkway between the two properties is actually a separate lot in it of itself. It doesn't belong to either property. And likewise, if you look at the back, that it's if you look at a zoomed out photo of that area, it's like a T across the 6 houses.
Okay, that is weird.
Yeah. So it did trigger some of the ballooning of our variance numbers.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Any questions, folks? No? All right. We'll take this into committee. So here?
Thank you. This is an extremely straightforward application. Both variances are both very minor in request. So I'd like to move approval without any conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Bryant to approve, no conditions. Do I have a seconder? Mr. McKay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you very much. And that was our last application of the day. We are adjourned at 4:13. Thank you all. Thanks, guys. Thanks, staff.
Thank you. Please turn off your videos, microphones.